Greetings, travelers. Welcome to Planet Buster. Initiating interstellar in-flight sequence. Powering navigation systems. Broadcast signal established. Thrusters at full momentum. Preparing for Planet Buster's launch in 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Planet Buster, the two-headed, but for, I want to say one night only, but it's really not one night only, because how many times have we done something like this? But this time, the three-headed Space Monster of Podcast, because along with myself, Shane, and Dan, what's going on, Dan?
Pretty much same old, same old.
Yeah, about the same. Same intro we do every week.
Pretty much, at this point, it's just a copy and paste job.
Yeah, we also have with us our dear friend, one of the fourth now of Planet Buster, and the man with the smoothest buttery voice amongst us all. Whatever, I'm not going to try to be fancy with this. Brandon's on the show. What's going on, Brandon?
Oh, same shit, different healthcare, right?
Wow.
That's like totally not going to be dated in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, wow. We just got, I was going to say that this got way too, real, but that's kind of what the topic is today.
Yeah.
Because, typically Planet Buster, and we're going to keep the same humor among us, because that's what we do.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're also not afraid to talk about some issues that we find interesting, or some that might have a little bit of a heavier controversy lent to it, but one that I think all of us can just say is interesting enough to talk to, and is interesting enough to explore.
Okay, so let's get it out of the way. So yeah, this is going to be a conversation where it's a little more real. It's a little more of a hot button topic. So fair warning, maybe as the kids are saying these days, a triggering conversation. But let's rip the bandage off now. Today's episode, we're talking about diversity. It's all about everything from, gender equality and race equality. Not really an equality thing, but media's transformed recently. There's been a lot of, with movies, there's been a lot of talk about how, only white people are getting casted for stuff, which is, whitewashing is an entirely real thing. Comic books, left and right superheroes are they're no longer these just white blonde characters.
Yeah, I think a lot of these people are being I guess we don't have to appeal to the white 13-year-olds anymore, so they're trying to be we can appeal to everybody. But
Yeah, my time to shine.
Yeah, buddy. But what we're talking about is not if we think that diversity is a good thing, because obviously we do. It's just, do we think that media, the diversifying nature of media right now, do we think that it is for social change? Do we think it's actually a supportive act that these companies are doing and these creators are doing, or do we think it's just kind of to cash in on the big boom of equality? I feel kind of weird saying that, it's a fucking
it does sound a little weird, but it is pretty much kind of that thing, because if you're more or less not an asshole on the internet, most people are just gonna say, of course they're doing it for money, and of course they're doing it, as they stroke their neck beard and adjust their trilby.
Like and subscribe if you're an asshole on the internet. Like and subscribe if you're not an asshole on the internet. But yeah, anyway, we just wanted to sit down, talk about maybe a few examples of the media we know, comics, games, movies, things like that.
Yeah.
And just kind of give our opinion, maybe talk to each other, because this is something that we've discussed off mic, off recording, but not necessarily something we've gone into full detail about. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about. Really, I'm just interested in what you guys have to say on the whole subject. So,
I mean, for me, it's really this kind of double-edged sword right now because, like, recently Marvel came out and said, like, oh, you know, our sales are down because we've tried to diversify because, like, you know, they went on the diversity band train going on through, you know, woo woo, ride the diversity train, everyone gets a superpower and everyone's represented in our great comic establishment world, but they've kind of been missing almost like the point of what it is, where it's like, yeah, I kind of see where you're trying to go with this, but I don't agree with it. Like, there seems to be good intentions with it, because, like, I'm all for, like, giving, like, people, like, different representations. You know, if you want to make, like, Hispanic superheroes or people of Muslim descent having, like, superpowers and doing, like, cool stories around that, that's great, that's fine, that's perfect. But it feels like they're more or less just kind of using it as, like, a way to be like, we're diverse, please buy our stuff because we're diverse.
Yeah, so it's
Aren't
more.
we cool? Aren't we? Yeah.
It's more of a cash grab than it is anything else.
It feels more like a cash grab than, say, like, what it was originally. Because this isn't the first time this has kind of happened, especially in stories. Like, everyone's kind of done it.
Because I think that it is well-intentioned, like Dan was saying, but that's pretty much it. Like, I think it's well-intentioned. I don't think it's very... I mean, I think there's a reason why the sales have, quote-unquote, you know, gone down. Because if I'm going to read a story about any other, like, you know, diverse group of people that happen to be represented by having a superhero or whoever, like, in a comic, make it something original and don't make it like, oh yeah, here's this already established, you know, character that everyone knows and loves. We're just gonna, you know, give them a different race or like put them in a different like scenario. Because to me that feels, like I said, well intentioned because it's, you know, they're trying to be inclusive and, you know, trying to give representation, which is great, but it feels kind of lazy to me because just come up with, you know, an original idea. You know what I mean? Like,
let me ask you this. So, I know when we were talking about the comics and everything, I definitely pointed to like Amadeus Cho and like Riri Williams as like Ironheart, because while they seem to be cool characters and, you know, it's great for them that it's like, oh cool, hey guys, check it out, we're hitting all of these different, you know, cultures with or races, cultures, whatever you want to say, with our comics. It doesn't feel like it's really doing a favor. Like when Falcon became Captain America, I thought it was cool, but at the same time I was just like, why don't you just make Falcon like a more important character instead of giving him the mantle of Captain America?
Yeah, he's had a mantle for like, he's had his own established identity for like fucking years.
Right. It's about making new characters, which is hard. Do not get me wrong. Every idea has been done. I know it has been done, and I know it's hard. But if you really want to show that you want to like support, you know, these different sects of people, and like really show that you're with them and show that you want to give everyone their time to shine, because everyone can be a superhero. That's the big thing. Everyone can be a hero. Then make someone new. Like, I don't even care. Like I'll take Riri Williams for example. Awesome character, great character, but she doesn't need to be like the new Iron Man. Even if she had an Iron Man suit, like, give her a different name and fucking put her out there.
Well, the thing is, she does have a different name, Ironheart, but yet they still put her in Iron Man as her main selling title. I'm like, just call it Ironheart. That's her book. That's her thing. It's Ironheart.
But even in that, it's still kind of like it's just to me that I think, and this is coming from, you know, this is coming from a straight white man, like, and I know me giving an opinion about diversity is probably a little weird, but like, I feel like if you're gonna support someone, show them you care enough that you could make something new. Show them that you care to make something of their own. And for God's sakes, don't put the fucking name of, like, their race or something in the superhero name. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, oh, it's Black Falcon. Like that's pretty fucked up, guys.
I'm glad that hasn't actually still continued to be a thing. Like, that was the big thing in the 70s. Like, oh my god, he's a black superhero and identifies as being black. Nowadays, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a little insensitive now. We don't have to do that anymore. Like, he can just be lightning. He doesn't have to be Black Lightning.
Yeah. Like it's cool that he has this stuff. And I don't know if maybe that's like the opposite side. Someone could be like, well, no, it's good that he's like embracing his identity. But at the same time, for me, it's like he shoots lightning out of his hands. You know, like he can fly, and he's got like a fucking robot Falcon sidekick. If you're talking about like the new one and shit,
right?
Like he's he's got more like no one calls like Hulk White Hulk. You know what I mean?
No, he's just the Hulk, and I think
Even the new one, he's not Asian Hulk, you know.
yeah, right. He's
Yeah,
not
no.
Asian Hulk. He's just the Hulk.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, give them, just make a new character. I don't know. I want a
Yeah.
new character.
Like when you put someone's race, you know, or like their culture, or like something that like defines, like, you know, hijab girl. You know what I mean? Like if you were to do that, like it just it. I understand that, like I said, well intentioned, but like it feels like, what's the word? Isolating, I guess. Like kind of focusing on that thing, and where, you know, to like not make a big deal out of it, you know, would be like more realistic, and like I think it would be more well received. I don't know. I haven't read Ironheart, but I don't know if you know, she, you know, is getting bullied for being black or something. You know what I mean? You know, and like, I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, you don't have to say, you know, Black Adam, Black Lightning, all those people. Like you don't have to like point out whatever is like quote unquote making them different. You know.
I'm pretty sure Black Adam is called Black Adam because he wears black, though.
I'm pretty much sure. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I don't think Black Adam is actually black.
Yeah, and it's like the thing is with them too. It's like I get what
I
they're
mean,
trying.
still.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to like make up for the fact it's like, oh, ever since the 1960s we've had like all of our main staple characters have been white. Well, we need to throw some diversity in there. We need some kind of diversity, but it feels less like they're actually like focused on making like interesting characters who just happen to be like Hispanic, who happen to be African American, who happen to be Muslim, and they're just kind of like using those elements as the selling points to be like, Thor is a woman now. Isn't that revolutionary? Isn't that amazing? I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but what's the cool point about the character besides the gender?
You know what it is? Like, I don't know, for me, it just feels like just not genuine. Like, it just doesn't feel like they're trying to do, like, an honest, you know, representation of whatever group they're trying to include, you know? It just feels like you're saying, Dan, like, it feels like they're just focusing on, oh, what's, like, the hot issue right now? Like, okay, people of color, cool. Well, there's an Asian Hulk, Iron Man's a black college student, and, you know, all these, like, different things, but, yeah. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like they took their time and, like, made something, like Shane was saying, like, they, you know, took their time and made a new character with a new, you know, backstory. Like, they was kind of like, what's a good template that we can, like, put this hot button on? Oh, superheroes, cool, there you go.
And like it's even kind of going like past comics a little bit too. I've been noticing like that. You know, you've had some TV shows that have done it, and you've had some movies that are doing it in other kind of like different mediums where it's just like, hey, let's take this kind of character or like storyline or something like that and switch them around, and we'll give them a different coat of paint. We'll give them a different genitals, and we'll
yeah, and like
we'll cut that part.
Yeah, you know, for every Wally West, there's at least 10 Johnny Storms out there, you know?
Yeah, so, you know, it's kind of the flip side, because I know for me, like, when, we'll use Fantastic Four as an example, when they cast Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, I thought it was cool. I like Michael B. Jordan, he's a good actor. I did not see that as like a race swap on the character, because movies are alternate universe. That's one thing, at least in my opinion. Like,
yeah,
movies,
I mean that's why like I like Sam Jackson better as Nick Fury than David Hasselhoff.
Right, and Sam Jackson set the bar for that character, and now like you don't see a Nick Fury that doesn't look like Sam Jackson. Jackson,
it's like I don't see it as this is Black Nick Fury. I see this as this is Nick Fury.
Right,
he just happens to be black. That's kind of what I wish a lot of this was more cater to, instead of just having that be the selling point.
And what bothered, like, going back to the Fantastic Four thing, I remember, like, the big clusterfuck that was going on was, like, when they revealed, hey, you know, Johnny Storm's black, and there was all these conversations about, like, how can they be related? How can they be brother and sister? And it doesn't fucking matter. It's not a thing that affects the story at all. It does not factor into the story. The story about Fantastic Four is there are 4 people that got superpowers, and they use it to fight a dude in an iron mask, or like among other villains. But in the movies,
I mean, they can't get it right in movies, but that's the core of the story. And as long as you have that element, I don't care what color or what person is.
But just make it a good movie, though.
Yeah,
right.
At least make it good. If you're
right.
gonna do that
And that's where like the diversifying goes wrong for me, because if you're the whole hype. I mean, you know we're going to talk about Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
you
that's
know
like,
we're going to
it's
talk
an-
about Ghostbusters.
I mean, come on, it's like one of the easiest fucking targets at this point.
Right.
Everyone's beating the fucking horse. So
and
it's
this isn't where we're like going to go on a rant and like shit on Ghostbusters. It's just one of those things because like there was even some stuff in Ghostbusters that I thought was funny. Like we were laughing at that fucking Yankee sucks joke.
and that
for,
wasn't
like,
even in the fucking movie.
right. But we were laughing at that for like a solid like 10, 15 minutes. Like that was legitimately funny. But yeah, and there was all of this like controversy that was going around, or a lot of people saying like if you don't like the new Ghostbusters movie, which I don't, like you were a sexist, which it made no sense to me. I'm a fan of a lot of the people in the movie, all of the main cast. I enjoy. I love Saturday Night Live, and I've seen them all. Melissa McCarthy more in like guest appearances and stuff, but like Melissa McCarthy, when she's on point, she's on point. And then everyone else, Leslie Jones, I think is fucking hilarious. Well, in most stuff. There's sometimes like in this one where I don't like, and the controversy is like, why is a black one the fucking subway operator and everyone else is like a doctor? And that's where they tried to do this diversity thing, it kind of fell off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't even allow one of the characters to be gay, because originally one of the characters was supposed to be gay, but Sony was like, well, we're not going that far.
Yeah, like, we can only support so many people at the same time.
We can calm down, guys. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
like, and like, I think what the problem was because, like, if you actually watch the movie, it doesn't really give a shit, like, that the characters are female, but, like, the whole hype around it and the whole selling point was girl power and all this kind of stuff that you felt like when you actually watched the movie just wasn't actually
Yeah, it's a fucking non-factor in the movie.
Yeah, it was just a selling point, and I feel like that's such a non-bow for a selling point. I don't really give a shit what genitals are around for anyone, but just sell the comedy and just sell the characters, and they didn't do that. It was more or less just trying to market the diversity, and that I don't feel came off right, and that's why it backfired, is because...
Yeah. Because, like, you can dislike, any of these movies that are quote-unquote race or gender bent, like, but as long as you dislike it because they're bad movies and not because, it's a Ghostbusters movie with women, or
Right.
because there's, Johnny Storm is black now.
Oh my god,
like,
right?
Then you're good. Because, yeah, those movies were kind of bad. Like Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch was a movie that I was like, oh, they're, it's all about, feminism and, like, girl power and all this stuff, but it's like, okay, you guys really didn't execute that at all.
So your strippers, they get beat up and wear schoolgirl outfits kind of in dreams, and it's this convoluted, like, hidden message.
Because now he says empowerment like a panty shot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like an
much.
underage character. Like,
or your main character getting a fucking lobotomy at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, God, how long has it been since Sucker Punch came out? Like,
God, I don't even know. And we're not even going on that fucking
fuck it,
tangent.
we're not, but
There could be a whole podcast called Fuck Zack Snyder, but that's a different topic.
we might have to make that podcast one day, actually.
Actually, that does sound like a pretty good podcast.
But just cash in on, like, the ultimate internet movie review thing, where it's
fuck,
just like,
we'll do
Zack
it in
Snyder sucks!
You know what? We'll do it when Justice League comes out. I mean, what the fuck are people going to expect that?
God, watch us really like that too. No, but anyway, like, I get where you're coming from, Brandon, and I have to agree. I think the bottom line on movies, and just really the bottom line of what we're going to be saying for most of this, is like, if you're going to try and show support for something, make it good. Make it a good effort. Because if you're like, well, this movie sucked, but we had a whole bunch of black people in it, like, congratulations, you made a shitty representation, and if anything, you might have even pissed off a lot of people doing it.
I will say, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Like, but I will say that I like movies that have, for like people of color and, like, LGBT people in it. Like, I am more inclined to watch that just because, I don't know, it's nice to, like, and again, lack of a better term, to, like, change it up from the norm, Like,
Right.
I like I was saying earlier, like, representation. Like, I like, seeing marginalized groups kind of represented well. Like, yeah, Ghostbusters, pretty bad movie. Like, it just wasn't a good, women, like, can do the same as men kind of thing. There's other movies for that. There's better movies for that.
Yeah,
if you're
exactly. Like,
looking
there's...
for- yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
there's definitely better things that have done that. I mean, even if you want to go further on African American representation too, of like movies that have had all black casts. There's like tons of fucking movies that are like fucking phenomenal. Even
Moonlight
shows.
was killing it
like
this
like
year, man.
like freaking Luke Cage. That is like very focused on like African American representation. That's a really good fucking show.
And they don't pull any punches either.
No, it doesn't pull any punches. They're written as characters. They're not just like, hey, this is a show for black people. No, it's just like, no, these are just people who happen to be black and they're actual characters, and we gave them development, we gave them arcs, we gave all these other things. We can do that. Even like one of my favorite movies of the year that came out, Get Out, is from an interesting perspective. That you don't get to really see a lot in horror movies, because it's always like the rule in horror movies is the black guy dies because, well, he's the black guy and he has to die in the horror movie. But it's a whole movie focused on the tropes of those kind of horror movies and also using that character that doesn't get represented. But instead of it just using it as a shield for marketing, it's actually focused around it. The story's actually built around that thing and actually talks about those issues. And I feel like if you have stuff that goes into that, that's fascinating. That's great.
Yeah, Get Out is a really good example, because I feel like, you know why Get Out felt like such a genuine, like, really good movie? Because it was written and directed by a black guy. Like, I really think that, you know, in order for these marginalized groups to be represented, I think they need to be written and portrayed properly by the people that they're, or at least consult one of the people, you know, like...
Yeah, that is like a good point. I mean, like half the characters that we were talking about in Marvel were all made by like white guys. Like the person who made the person who made Riri Williams, white dude. The person who was behind Female Thor, white dude. And like, I mean, it is kind of hard to be in that position, because it's like, I don't know why they can't just hire people like that, but I want them to be like hired because they're good writers and not just like as consultants for like, is this character offensive? Like, if you have to consult someone and say like, hey, is this character kind of offensive? Then you might have already made an offensive character if that's the case.
I am not surprised at all that the character Riri Williams was made by a white guy, because I think like only a white guy would be like, Riri. That's a great name for our empowered like character. Apologies for everyone out there listening to the show whose name is Riri or knows someone named Riri. I don't know if that's really a thing or not, because
I have never met a person named Riri.
Yeah, neither have I. So
I've only heard it in like fucking movies and shit. Like I've never really met anyone.
That sounds like a diverse name, right? Right? Does it sound like a diverse name? I don't know. I guess.
And it also, let me just say, like, as far as like the writing and like representation of all these people, like I said, do it well, and like don't. If you like Tyler Perry movies out there, I'm sorry, but like, don't write. I can only speak for people of color, so don't write people of color for white people, because it's different and it's just not. It's not genuine and it's not true. It's like not true to the culture, you know. Like all these people, all these like superheroes that are. You know, I'm glad that there's a black Iron Man. I know we're kind of refuting against it, and it shouldn't be, but
I mean, they already had one. And
yeah, his name was War Machine. He was awesome.
And then they told him on panel to be like, "Oh, but we got this teenage girl. That's better, right?" You just killed one black Iron Man and replaced another one. That's kind of fucked up.
Oh, dude, I like War Machine more than I like Iron Man too, which is like,
to be honest,
it's a reason kind of like, you know, kind of refuting, not to interrupt, I'm gonna let you go back in a minute, but it's kind of like when Jon Stewart took up the Green Lantern mantle, like that's Green Lantern to me. Hal Jordan is great, but like Jon Stewart is Green Lantern to me, and that's one of the rare cases I would say where like someone else took up the mantle, and like. In the Green Lantern case, it kind of makes sense because it's like an entire corps, so there's gonna be more than one person. So okay, that's fine. But I definitely agree that like if we were gonna do the thing where someone had to take up the Iron Man mantle, I mean Dan and I already talked about it. Rhodey had done it already, so having War Machine just kind of step in, and he doesn't have to become Iron Man. He could just stay War Machine. And you know, build that character who's already really been built, but like give him more time to shine. And I think that's more where we're coming from here. Like, support what you already have. You don't have to just take someone and slap a title that people know onto them and be like, hey guys, Miss Marvel is Muslim. Like, that's awesome. Can you make a character that's just as powerful as Miss Marvel and then like let her be her own identity.
We'll get back to you on that one. That's
Takes
always
so
like
much
the
work, though.
Yeah.
Man.
And then like I think the thing that pisses me off the most though is the fact that they're blaming the diversity on like the failing now.
Yeah, like,
it's
I can-
people are not okay with being given like the hey guys, like the pandering. That's what I'm looking for. They're not-
Yeah, it really does come off pandering. I can say this as the person in the group who reads like comics a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Like Marvel has way more issues than just like forced diversity. Okay, like it's every like 2 weeks they come up with a new event or a non-reboot, or the X-Men are in something, or Spider-Man something, or like train their characters to be unrelatable now. Like Spider-Man's a billionaire and has all these things. That's not really what I read Spider-Man for, but okay, I guess whatever. I really think it's one of those double-edged sword kind of scenarios. There is no like win-lose kind of scenario. Because on the same point, I get it. Because, I'll say this, I'm a white guy. I'm not going to understand the other side of that kind of argument, representation, because, people like me have always been represented in the media for like fucking years. But at the same time, I understand where that comes from. I understand like that want to be represented. I think my main wish and what I see a lot of these kind of habits is it feels like it's more or less kind of pandering to it than actually trying to do noble representations and actually trying to make these interesting characters. Because we've seen that done. And I feel like a lot of those cases are just kind of like pointing the blame on just some bad decisions because they were too lazy to actually go that route. So they just said, whatever, we'll just switch out a costume and make it the other guy and we'll be progressive. Even though that's not really progressive. You're just kind of throwing them table scraps and just saying, here, you can have these things that the other guys have, and then you'll be replaced a couple months after and you'll be back doing, I don't know, whatever the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's part of like the fickle nature of a lot of pop culture too. Like these superheroes and like just other characters that are being like Falcon. How long was Falcon actually Captain America for?
I mean,
Like-
it's hard to say because like now with this whole like Cap being a Nazi, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean like just is that still a thing?
That's still a
really?
thing. It's getting it already has its own event right now because
Oh my
like
God, why would you make Captain America nuts?
and
Anyway,
Marvel's wondering why they're not doing well in comic sales.
yes. Anyway, though, like his time, he's on borrowed time. Like eventually, Steve Rogers is just gonna come back and be Captain America again. Thor is going to be Thor. It's his fucking name. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like Tony Stark is gonna come back. Everyone comes back eventually. No one stays dead in comics. So I think that's part of where we wanted to come from with like making someone their own character. Because we don't want them to die. We don't want them to just go away when Daddy comes home and wants to take his chair back. And going off of what you were saying about being a white guy and not knowing the other side, like yeah, I'm a white guy too. And if I wasn't represented, I'd be fucking pissed off. Like it kind of sucks. I can imagine how much it would suck to go to all these things, see these movies, see these TV shows, read these books where they say like, "Oh, you're a hero," or "This guy's a hero," and it's never you. And
Yeah, I mean,
like I don't. Obviously, you and I, Dan, like we've had more of, for lack of a better term, our people represented, but at the same time, we've been fulfilled. I'm satisfied. I've eaten my fill, and I'm ready to leave the table and let someone else come in and get some food. So if you guys are ready to eat, like if people want to eat, fucking eat. We don't need the stuff. White people like us, we're always going to be represented now. So I think we're not going to lose anything by bringing in new characters, bringing in people, people of color, bringing in people of different, sexualities and genders and like different lifestyles. Everyone can come to the table and eat, and there's still plenty to go around. And I think that's where I come from with this stuff. If it's good and it's represented well and people actually gave a shit about it, and like you bring up Get Out, like I still think about Get Out, and we saw that forever ago. You could really tell that like Jordan Peele really cared about that movie. And as long as there's passion involved, as long as the art is good, then all of the other factors can ride along with it as opposed to like being the driving point.
I think that Get Out was a great kind of step into more representation and like different kinds of stories about, centered around people of color and like LGBT people and like people of different religions and stuff. Because there are also sorry.
Well, that's all, folks.
There's we're talking about superhero movies, but there's a superhero movie coming out soon, and I didn't even know it was a superhero movie. It's called Slight. It's with some black kid, and like he just like lives with his sister, and like he does magic, but I think it's like telekinesis or something.
I actually saw a trailer for that.
Yeah, like, that's cool. Like it's cool that there's spaces for people of color now in cinema and in TV shows. Like, I think it's important. Representation is important, and as long as it's done well, I have no problem with it. Is it necessary all the time? Not all the time. I mean, don't go out of your way, like Dan was saying. Don't make it feel forced. Like, Black is just a great show, but I don't need, another kind of show. You know what I mean?
You don't need a checklist on your show of like, gotta make sure we have a black guy in there, gotta make sure we have, a gay person, gotta make sure we have, a woman.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to replace John Candy with Mike Epps to basically say like, hey, Uncle Buck is cool and inclusive now, right?
Yeah,
no, who cares?
No.
Like, who cares if you're still writing a piece of shit show? It doesn't matter. Like,
that explains why Mike Epps is in it in the first place, though.
Like another thing too. All these shitty shows with people of color or like just that aren't very well represented. I can't talk today. Represented. It kind of, and they suck, like if they're bad shows, like, it's kind of like a double, like, letdown because I'll watch a shitty show that has good, people of color in it, but I'm not, if they're not even, you know what I mean? Like, if they're not even done right, quote unquote, I'm gonna like it a little bit less because, I don't know, it feels like a kind of a waste of time to just watch it and, like, because I like watching shitty things, but if they're trying to cash in on this whole race thing and they're not doing it right, I'm not gonna...
This whole new race thing that the kids are into now. that fancy new culture that the kids are all talking about. It's like fucking rock music.
Yeah, and I don't think I want to see that become a fad where they're just going to like stop and be like, oh, well, that's... never mind, the whole like inclusive thing's done. Let's cast Scarlett Johansson as some Asian person again.
Don't even get me started on Ghost in the Shell. Like, don't even. The only thing that should be whitewashed is like office walls. And here's the thing: I'm not really into Ghost in the Shell, and we're not going to go on a big like tangent about that. But I don't think it takes longer than a couple minutes to be like, well, casting Scarlett Johansson in a movie that's supposed to be set in Japan as a Japanese character piss people off. Yeah, probably. Like, it's not that hard to be accurate.
Yeah, it's like, well, we couldn't sell the movie. You couldn't sell the movie based on the concept and idea.
Right. The idea is pretty sweet. It's a pretty
like,
cool
you can
looking
sell on the
movie.
concept. You don't have to be like, I mean, granted, like, probably the only reason it got made was because Scarlett Johansson said yes, so.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and, like, going back to, I don't want that to kind of come back in style because they feel like, oh, well, fuck trying to appeal to people of color and all this stuff because it's like, it's just a fad. I don't want that to be a fad. I want it to actually be something interesting to explore and people to actually do, and I don't just want them to stop because they're like, whatever. I think the whole point that we're trying to get at is in this podcast because it really is a very hard topic to talk about. But I think what we can all agree on is that we're not against the idea of seeing more diverse characters. We want to see these things happen. However, we don't want to see these done just for sales and just to kind of feel like you have to meet a quota.
Right.
It needs to actually be real. If you're going to make a black character, have it not just be the thing is like, oh, well, we just need better representation, so here's a black guy. There, we're not racist anymore.
Yeah, don't go down the list and like check, your races off.
No, actually make that a fucking character. And I know some of these other characters probably are, but unfortunately, the way they've been sold has just been that.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, Dan, but it also goes beyond just races and gender and stuff like that. It goes into, mental health. It goes into like physical disability. I know we were all pissed off when Oracle was just like, I'm Batgirl again and I'm perfectly fine. And,
or when they made Amanda Waller skinny again.
Right. It's all about people come in all of these wonderful like shades and shapes and things, and eventually everyone wants that one person that they can relate to. Everyone wants to be represented, and we're all for that. We want that to happen as long as it's done right, and as long as it's done for, the sake of actually supporting people, as opposed to just, oh, well, if we do this, we'll make more money. Money's involved, but I think a lot of these companies will find that if they're true to their characters, I use Power Rangers kind of as an example, where coming out of that at the end, I kind of forgot that some of the characters were different races because the characters were represented well and they were written well. They were written as people as opposed to like races. And if you do it right, people will like it. People will come. You can tell when people are being sincere. So just put a little more heart into what you're doing, and we'll all be happy.
Yeah, don't be a lazy fuck and actually do some work. Make it worthwhile. Don't be fucking lazy.
It's important to have a level of respect to whatever kind of culture that you're trying to represent in a given medium. Like, it's important to not kind of step on the toes of those people. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of what it boils down to. Like, if they have a respect for the culture, then the representing will come across better. Like we talked about Ghost in the Shell, like, don't even get me started either. That's another rant. But if they had, like, really respected the culture, I don't think that even casting Scarlett Johansson would have been a thought, And I don't know, I feel like it's important to, like Shane was saying, show some heart, show some respect.
Yeah, so I think that's all we have to say. We kind of touched on some touchy shit there. And I know I'm wiping the beads of sweat off my forehead because, putting something about diversity on YouTube is pretty much asking to get slapped around. And, this is putting ourselves out there.
And pretty much just says we can't just run ads on it. But you know what? Who gives a crap? Because sometimes art isn't safe and you need to speak the truth.
Damn right. And that's what we're about here at Planet Buster. And we appreciate you sitting down and listening to another one of our episodes, another week on the Planet Buster board. Really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out on our humble little channel, and we really hope you stick around. So, for another week, I'm Shane.
I'm Dan.
I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this recent session of having a photon torpedo of awesome blasted into your ear holes, then feed the two-headed beast that is Planet Buster by following us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and check out our own personal website where we have all kinds of podcast episodes and blogs for you to enjoy. Also, don't forget to check out our friend Brody Milne at his SoundCloud. He's the cool dude who made our sweet theme song. It's pretty awesome. Until next time, see you, space travelers.